January 14th, 2027, 9:41 local time. The Gulf of Oman, approximately 74 nautical miles south of the Iranian port city of Chabahar and 61 nautical miles north of the Omani coastline near Ras Al Had. The late morning sky is clear at all altitudes. Visibility unlimited. Wind 8 knots from the northwest. Sea state 2. The Gulf of Oman at this position is 3,200 meters deep. The water a dark indigo blue. The surface broken by the gentle swells of a calm winter morning. Commercial traffic is moderate. 4 tankers visible on the surface within 40 nautical miles, all making eastward transits toward the Arabian Sea. At 26,000 feet, a US Navy P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft is holding a racetrack orbit 74 nautical miles from the Iranian coast, conducting a surveillance mission that has been on continuous rotation from this approximate position for 22 days. The P-8A's mission package includes an AN/APS-154 Advanced Airborne Sensor Radar, a magnetic anomaly detection system, acoustic sensor processing for sonobuoy data, and a full electronic intelligence collection suite. The aircraft is operating in international airspace. 74 nautical miles is well beyond Iran's 12 nautical mile territorial airspace boundary, and within the internationally recognized freedom of navigation zone. The crew of 9 has been on station for 4 hours and 22 minutes of a planned 8-hour patrol. They are monitoring 2 Iranian submarine contacts that were last tracked exiting Bandar Abbas 4 days ago. At a radar installation on the Iranian coast 74 nautical miles to the north, the P-8A has been a continuous track on the Bavar-373 system's search radar for 3 hours and 18 minutes. The firing order is 7 minutes away. Welcome. I'm your host at Navy Legends. Tonight we are examining the engagement that Iran's air defense establishment has been building toward since 2019. The live combat employment of the Bavar-373 long-range surface-to-air missile system against a U.S. military aircraft operating in international airspace over the Gulf of Oman. The Bavar-373 is not a copy of the Russian S-300. It is Iran's domestically developed answer to the S-300, a system whose development was accelerated precisely because U.S. sanctions blocked Iran from receiving the Russian system it had contracted for in 2007. Tonight, we examine what the Bavar-373 can do against a P-8A at 26,000 feet, what 9 seconds of warning looks like from the cockpit, and what a U.S. aircraft lost to Iranian air defense over the Gulf of Oman means for every subsequent intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance mission in the region. This is a fictional simulation. Every technical parameter is grounded in Iranian Defense Ministry statements, open source analysis of the Bavar-373's documented capabilities, and the specific flight characteristics of the P-8A maritime patrol aircraft. Let's begin. The Bavar-373, Persian for Cloud 373, had been unveiled by Iranian state media in August 2019 at a ceremony attended by President Rouhani, who had characterized the system as Iran's strategic response to U.S. and Israeli air power in the region. The system's documented capabilities, as stated by Iranian defense officials and corroborated by DIA open-source assessments, included an engagement range of 200 kilometers against aircraft targets, an engagement altitude ceiling of 27,000 meters, a simultaneous engagement capacity of 6 targets, and a terminal guidance seeker on its Sayed-4 interceptor missile, assessed as using active radar homing with a mid-course inertial guidance update from the ground-based fire control radar. Against a P-8A at 26,000 feet, 74 nautical miles from the launch position, the Bavar-373's engagement geometry was within its specified parameters. 74 nautical miles equals 137 kilometers. Inside the 200-kilometer stated engagement range, the P-8A, with a wingspan of 38.1 meters and a radar cross-section assessed at approximately 15 to 25 square meters in the Bavar-373's X-band search and track frequency, was a large, unambiguous target for the system's phased array engagement radar at that range. The Iranian decision to engage had been building for 14 days. On December 31st, a P-8A operating from this same approximate position had collected acoustic intelligence on the two Iranian submarines whose signatures had been matched to Iranian Fateh-class submarines, Iran's domestically produced air-independent propulsion boats, operating in what the Iran commander assessed as the P-8A's primary acoustic collection zone for their patrol routes. The acoustic intelligence had enabled two US Navy destroyer-class vessels to adjust their patrol positions in the Strait of Hormuz in a manner that the Iran assessed as tactically disadvantageous to the submarine's covert patrol objectives. The intelligence connection between the P-8A's acoustic collection and the destroyer repositioning had been assessed by Iran headquarters at Bandar Abbas as confirming that the P-8A orbit at 74 nautical miles was not a passive observation mission, but an active, operationally consequential intelligence collection activity that was directly affecting Iranian submarine operations in the Strait of Hormuz. The Iran commander had presented this assessment to the IRGC Aerospace Force commander and to the Supreme National Security Council on January 9th, with a recommendation that the P-8A orbit be contested. The Supreme National Security Council's authorization, granted at a closed session on January 12th, specified three conditions. The engagement would be conducted against an aircraft operating in demonstrably international airspace to establish the legal basis for an Iranian claim of defensive action against what Iran would characterize as a hostile intelligence operation. The engagement would use only the Bavar-373 and would not involve any IRIAF aircraft to minimize the escalation signature, and the operation would be followed immediately by a prepared diplomatic statement characterizing the engagement as a measured response to sustained violations of Iran's maritime security zone, a legal construct that Iran would assert in the aftermath regardless of its absence from recognized international law. The Bavar-373 battery commander at the Chabahar Coastal Defense Installation received his operational order at 8 o'clock on January 14th. The order specified the engagement window as 9:30 to 10:30 local time, corresponding to the P-8A's documented patrol racetrack pattern that placed the aircraft at its closest approach point to the Iranian coast, approximately 74 nautical miles, between those times on its current orbital schedule. At 9:34, the Bavar-373's engagement radar, the Mirage 4 phased array fire control system, locked onto the P-8A at a range of 128 kilometers. The lock was established in 0.4 seconds. The fire control system began computing the intercept solution. On the P-8A, the aircraft's AN/ALR-67 radar warning receiver detected the Mirage 4 fire control radar's X-band emission at 093408. 8 seconds after the lock was established, the RWR tone sounded in the crew's headsets. The mission commander identified the emission as a Bavar-373 fire control radar lock. Not a search radar, not a general surveillance sweep, but a fire control lock. The specific distinction mattered. A search radar detection means you are being observed. A fire control lock means you are being aimed at. He called it immediately Bavar-373 fire control lock, bearing 345. This is a missile engagement radar. All stations, chaff and flares, hard right, turn now. The P-8A initiated its brake turn to the right at 093411, 3 seconds after the RWR detection. The aircraft's airspeed at the time of the brake was 440 knots indicated airspeed. The maximum bank angle the P-8A's flight envelope allowed at 26,000 feet at that airspeed was 60 degrees. The aircraft rolled to 60 degrees bank and pulled toward the horizon, dispensing chaff bundles and infrared flares from its AN/ALE 47 countermeasures dispensing system at 093412. At 93414, the Bavar-373 battery commander gave the firing order. The Syed 4 missile left its launcher at 093416. 2 seconds after the firing order, 8 seconds after the fire control lock was established, 5 seconds after the P-8A began its brake turn. The Syed 4 is a large missile, 7.4 meters long, 480 kilograms at launch, with a solid fuel booster producing a burnout velocity assessed at Mach 4.5 and a terminal phase speed of approximately Mach 3.8. Against a target at 128 kilometers range and 26,000 feet altitude, the time of flight was approximately 94 seconds. 94 seconds. The P-8A crew had 94 seconds for missile launch. They had used 5 of those seconds before the missile left the rail. The P-8A's brake turn was producing a lateral displacement from the pre-brake flight path at a rate determined by the aircraft's turn performance at those parameters. Approximately 3.8 degrees of heading change per second in a 60-degree banked turn at 440 knots. After 10 seconds of turn, the aircraft had displaced approximately 2.1 nautical miles laterally from its pre-brake track. After 20 seconds, 4.3 nautical miles. After 40 seconds, approximately 8.7 nautical miles. The Sayed 4's mid-course guidance was receiving continuous target position updates from the Mirage 4 fire control radar, which was tracking the P-8A through its brake turn. The mid-course update corrections were being transmitted to the missile at 2-second intervals, adjusting the intercept solution as the target displaced laterally. The Sayed 4's aerodynamic maneuver authority in the mid-course phase, its ability to change heading to follow a maneuvering target, was assessed at approximately 20 to 25 G. The P-8A's RWR was now tracking the Sayed 4's radar seeker emission as the missile closed range. The mission commander was calling the evasive sequence. Missile tracking, continue brake right, max chaff, descend now. The aircraft pushed its nose toward the horizon, trading altitude for airspeed, a standard missile evasion tactic that increases the target's speed and reduces the closure geometry for the interceptor. At 9:34:56, 40 seconds after launch, 54 seconds before impact at the original intercept solution, the P-8A had descended through 22,000 feet and its airspeed had increased to 490 knots in the nose-low attitude. The lateral displacement was 8.7 nautical miles from the original track. The chaff dispensed during the first 40 seconds had created a cloud of radar-reflective metal strips extending approximately 3.1 nautical miles behind and below the aircraft's current position. The Sayed 4's active radar seeker activated at 09:35:02, 46 seconds after launch, 18 seconds before the updated intercept point. At a range of 31 kilometers from the aircraft, the seeker was designed to acquire and lock to the largest radar return within its acquisition gate, a 4-degree cone centered on the predicted target position. Within that cone, at 31 kilometers range, the seeker detected 2 returns. The P-8A at 15 to 25 square meters NIAB RCS, and the chaff cloud at an aggregate RCS of approximately 40 to 60 square meters, larger than the aircraft. The seeker locked to the chaff cloud. It was the countermeasures working as designed. The chaff's larger aggregate radar cross-section had attracted the seeker away from the aircraft. The Sayed 4, now in terminal guidance on the chaff cloud, adjusted its flight path toward the center of the chaff return, which was 2.8 nautical miles behind and 1,400 feet below the P-8A's current position. The Sayed 4 detonated its 60-kilogram fragmentation warhead at 09:35:18 at the center of the chaff cloud. Proximity fused, triggering when the missile's radar measured a target return consistent with a large aircraft at close range. The detonation was 2.8 nautical miles behind and 1,400 feet below the P-8A's position at the moment of detonation. The P-8A was not struck. Its crew felt nothing. At 9:35:19, the mission commander confirmed the detonation on the RWR display. The Sayed 4's seeker emission had gone silent, consistent with warhead detonation. He called it. Missile detonation confirmed. We are clear. Assessing aircraft status. The P-8A was at 21,600 feet, 490 knots, 9.4 nautical miles southeast of its pre-brake position. All systems nominal. No damage. All 9 crew members uninjured. The mission commander transmitted to NavCent at 09:35:24. NavCent, Poseidon 3-1. We have been engaged by a Bavar-373. 1 Sayed 4 fired, defeated by countermeasures. Aircraft and crew status nominal. Departing operating area. returning to base. Request immediate guidance. Nav sent received the transmission at 09:35:31. The duty officer escalated to the nav sent commander at 09:35:38. The chain reached CENTCOM at 09:36:14 and the CNO's office at 09:36:49. The P-8A landed at Al Minhad Air Base in the UAE at 11:47, 2 hours and 6 minutes after the engagement. The crew was debriefed beginning at 12:30. The intelligence recovered from the 4 hours and 22 minutes of patrol conducted before the engagement, including the acoustic tracking data on the 2 Fateh-class submarines and the electronic intelligence on the Bavar-373 system's radar emissions, was transmitted to the National Maritime Intelligence Center by 1400. The Bavar-373's fire control radar emissions, recorded in precise detail by the P-8A's AN/ALR-67 and its dedicated electronic intelligence suite during the 26 seconds between the radar lock and the missile launch, represented the most complete close-range electronic characterization of the Bavar-373 fire control system ever collected by US intelligence. The engagement had produced, as a direct consequence of the attack, a signals intelligence record that would enable the development of more precise electronic countermeasures against the Bavar-373 in future encounters. The battery commander who ordered the engagement had provided the US intelligence community with the system's detailed electronic signature at close range, something that no standoff collection could have matched. This irony was not noted in the Iranian state media statement released at 1300 Tehran time, which described the engagement as a successful defensive operation in which Iranian air defense forces had responded to a persistent, hostile surveillance aircraft operating in Iran's maritime security zone and had demonstrated the capability to contest Iranian airspace and adjacent international airspace against any adversary's aviation assets. The statement was technically accurate in its central factual claim. Iran had fired a Bavar-373 Syed 4 missile at a US Navy P-8A in international airspace, and the missile had detonated in proximity to the target. The statement did not address whether the aircraft had been struck, damaged, or lost. It did not need to. The visual and rhetorical effect of Iranian air defense fired at US Navy aircraft over the Gulf of Oman was the strategic communication objective, independent of whether the aircraft had survived. CENTCOM's public statement, released at 1500 Washington time, confirmed the engagement, confirmed the aircraft's safe return, characterized the attack as an unprovoked act of aggression against a US military aircraft conducting lawful operations in international airspace, and announced that the United States government was consulting with allies and partners on an appropriate response. The response options presented to the NSC that evening organized themselves around a specific constraint. The P-8A had not been shot down. Its crew was safe. The Bavar-373 battery had fired 1 missile, expended it against a chaff cloud, and had not achieved its primary objective. The proportionality calculation for a kinetic response against the Bavar-373 battery, which had fired on a US aircraft and missed, was different from the calculation that would have applied had the aircraft been lost. The NSC authorized 3 responses. First, the immediate suspension of P-8A patrol operations within 100 nautical miles of the Iranian coast, pending the development of enhanced electronic warfare and tactical protocols for operations in the Bavar-373 engagement envelope. Second, the deployment of an EA-18G Growler electronic attack aircraft to accompany all future P-8A missions in the Gulf of Oman, providing dedicated suppression of enemy air defense support, including the ability to execute a targeted jamming attack against the Bavar-373 fire control radar from standoff range if a lock-on was detected. Third, the transmission through diplomatic back channels of a specific and documented warning that any future engagement of a US military aircraft in international airspace would be met with the immediate destruction of the engaging battery, regardless of the outcome of that engagement. The third response was a doctrine statement, a redefinition of the threshold that would trigger a kinetic response. The previous threshold had been interpreted by Iran as requiring an aircraft to be actually shot down before a kinetic response was proportionate. The new doctrine moved the threshold to the act of engagement, the firing of a missile at a U.S. aircraft in international airspace, as itself sufficient to authorize destruction of the firing system. This doctrine change was the most significant outcome of the January 14th engagement. The P-8A had survived. The Bavar-373 battery had demonstrated its capability and had announced through that demonstration the end of the 22-day unchallenged P-8A orbit. The United States had responded by changing the rules under which the next engagement would be evaluated. The after-action review produced 4 findings, driving immediate changes to maritime patrol aviation doctrine. The first was the reaction time gap. The 8-second lock detection interval plus the 3-second brake turn delay had left 89 seconds of missile flight time, sufficient for this engagement. But a faster Bavar-373 lock-to-launch sequence of 4 seconds instead of 8 would leave only 81 seconds. Against an upgraded Sayyad 4B variant with seeker modifications more resistant to chaff deception at longer activation ranges, 81 seconds might not develop sufficient chaff separation distance. The second was the chaff effectiveness dependency. The outcome had depended on the Sayyad 4 seeker locking to chaff rather than the aircraft. A probability, not a certainty. A seeker with moving target indicator capability, discriminating a stationary chaff cloud from a maneuvering aircraft, would not have made the same acquisition error. Improved chaff dispensing patterns targeting MTI-capable seekers were directed for urgent testing. The third was the ELINT windfall. The close-range Bavar-373 emissions collected during the 26-second lock-to-launch window were the most detailed characterization of the Mirage 4 fire control radar ever obtained. An AN/ALQ-99 jamming program targeting those specific parameters was directed for development with a 90-day delivery target. The fourth was the operational area geometry. The 74 nautical mile standoff inside the Bavar-373's 200-kilometer envelope had been accepted for 22 days based on the assessment that Iran would not fire. That assessment had been wrong. Future P-8A operations were directed to maintain 115 nautical miles from the Iranian coast, providing at least 12 additional seconds of reaction time against a rapid lock-to-launch sequence. The P-8A resumed Gulf of Oman patrol operations on January 28th, 14 days after the engagement, at the new 115 nautical mile standoff distance, with an EA-18G Growler escort and a revised tactical protocol that had incorporated all 4 findings. The acoustic intelligence collection coverage of the Iranian submarine patrol routes was reduced by approximately 34% at the greater standoff. The sonobuoy acoustic sensors having a maximum effective range that was sensitive to the additional 41 nautical mile distance. That 34% reduction in coverage was the operational cost of the Bavar-373 engagement. The 2 Fateh-class submarines whose patrol routes had been tracked with high confidence from the 74 nautical mile position were now tracked with moderate confidence from 115 nautical miles. The reduction in confidence translated into a reduction in the tactical value of the submarine tracking data to the destroyer formation in the Strait of Hormuz, and a corresponding increase in the operational freedom of the Iranian submarines to transit their patrol corridors without the precise localization that had been constraining their movements for 22 days. Iran had fired 1 Sayyad 4 missile. It had not hit anything. Its crew had collected no acoustic intelligence, produced no damage, and expended a $2 to $4 million missile against a chaff cloud. And it had moved the P-8A patrol orbit 41 nautical miles further south. In terms of acoustic intelligence coverage, that 41 nautical mile repositioning was worth more to the IRIN's submarine operations than any amount of anti-ship missile damage to the US surface fleet. The submarines could now conduct their Strait of Hormuz transit patterns with 34% less American acoustic surveillance than they had faced for the previous 22 days. 1 missile, 1 chaff cloud, 1 repositioned P-8A orbit, no damage, no casualties, and a 34% reduction in the intelligence coverage that had been constraining Iranian submarine operations in the most strategically critical waterway in the world. This is the strategic logic that Navy Legends has been tracing through every scenario in this series. The understanding that in asymmetric competition, The most valuable outcomes are not always the ones that show up in battle damage assessments. They are the ones that reshape the operational environment, the standoff distances, the patrol geometries, the intelligence collection coverage, within which both sides will conduct the next engagement and the one after that. The Bavar-373 battery had not shot down the P-8A. It had accomplished something more durable. It had established the outer boundary of the zone within which US maritime patrol aviation would operate in the Gulf of Oman for the foreseeable future. And it had done it with one missile, one chaff cloud, and 94 seconds. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. I'll see you in the next one.